a dream work.
So they say.
All right. Now we're recording on my end.
Awesome. Sound mapper's still not working. Great. Almost here. I feel it. I think.
No worries. I'm just sipping on my coffee.
Just make me more jealous. Could you say something, Kim?
Something, Kim.
Louder, maybe? I don't know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hello. Drinking coffee.
You know what? It's gonna be a little ghetto. Forgive the phrase, but I think I'm just gonna put the speakers closer to the microphone,
Okay.
the webcam mic, and see if that just helps with our audio recording. Like I said, as long as the video recording's there, we have that, so we'll go from there.
Yeah,
All right, let's start this over.
Send me over because we're doing our intro. So.
Oh, we'll just splice it all together, I guess.
So, bless editing.
Oh, who edits? Just post it raw.
We can't all be Tim Pool.
What's that?
We can't all be Tim Pool.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
If we could, I'm just not. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So how do you want to do this again?
Where did we leave off? Interesting. No. So then I have a confession to make. Like as soon as I confirmed with you, yeah, we're gonna have you over on fucking this day. That night, I had a dream that you were fucking furious at me over fucking Twitter, and you were bashing my professionalism. So I woke up and I was like, this was probably a bad idea. And then right now, this is all going on, and I'm like, damn it. But
he's fishing for compliments. Let him know he's okay.
You're doing fine. It's fine. I'm not gonna bash you on Twitter.
I think I give him too much shit. I've got him all paranoid now. So have you heard any of our podcasts? Do you know anything about us?
I've listened to a couple. I was just listening to your Christmas one just now.
Yeah.
While I was getting ready. A lot of fucks. A lot of fucks in that.
Oh yeah, I can't imagine where those come from. Not that I'm much better, but it's a common discussion here. It's the Marine way, though, apparently.
Yeah, because I got home and then my mother was all like, "Hey, wasn't this guy giving you shit for saying fuck all the time?" I'm like, "Oh, why? Now he's saying fuck all the time."
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
You're a bad influence, Rick. What can I say? Yeah, I don't know if our Christmas episode is very indicative of our overall episodes. We kind of goof. We try and be informative during the holidays, but these are the first holiday episodes we've gotten through. I'd say if I had to recommend any, I'd go to any of the Marine Memory episodes where we have guests that are Marines that are no longer in service, right?
There you go.
Former service member Marines.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll never learn how to say that.
You had it right.
Anyway, so I sent you the notes and stuff. Was there anything on there that was like concerning about the way I wrote it, or could you even read my notes?
Yeah, no, it was fine.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure there's nothing. I mean, I mostly agreed with pretty much everything. I mean, you're the thing I liked most about you, about everything I was able to go through, was that you're not hammering home an ideal that only some people can understand. It's typically what you're saying is very bipartisan. It's not an incompetent view on how to handle things. It's just the people that are so angry, it seems, about it are the people that just refuse to try and open up to another way of thinking. Everybody just wants to kind of lock themselves in a room and hide. And it just doesn't make any sense why you would get so much shit. I guess, do you think it's because of your aunt? The connection there that gets people riled up because, oh no, we see her on TV. We're not supposed to like her.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people use the last name as a license to say more things, but to be completely honest, like the hate that I get and the is very mild compared to a lot of conservatives, and I'm also relatively unknown as of right now. So most of my following tends to be people very much like yourselves, which is great, who can see the value in both sides of a perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, what I enjoy most is that you're willing to talk about the things that most you. The reason I was happy to have you on after going through all your stuff is because everything you say is to somebody completely inappropriate. And that's the point of our podcast. I had friends where I tell them about the subjects we talk about, the things we bring up, and they wonder like, well, what's completely inappropriate about that? Well, exactly. There's nothing inappropriate about these conversations. The thing that's inappropriate about it is people don't want to have them. And
Yeah.
it's they're just shutting themselves off to giving a shit about anybody that doesn't have exactly their viewpoint.
Well, people exist in modern day echo chambers, and predominantly in these echo chambers, one of the big repeated mantras is don't believe these people who espouse these beliefs because they're inherently evil, and even if they sound reasonable, they underneath it all actually hate everybody. So if you listen to them, you risk being brainwashed into one of these people who thinks they're altruistic, where in reality the real snake whisperer there is the person that says you can't listen to everybody's perspective because that's the only way you get informed, right? I don't care if you're on the left per se, unless you're a far left extremist. But if you can't articulate why you believe that the things that you believe, then you aren't actually what you say you are. You're just participating in mob mentality, and that doesn't accomplish anything productive.
Yeah, I have this conversation with my wife all the time. I mean, maybe it's a regular spousal argument, but it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. 9 times out of 10, the problem with people communicating with each other is they'd rather scream in front of each other's faces than say, well, I see your point there, but could you consider it from this angle and use a calm, rational explanation to get their viewpoint out instead of saying, no, fuck you, you're wrong.
Well, I mean, to play devil's advocate, you can say something that's factually inaccurate as calm as you want, but it's still wrong. Like,
Yeah, very true, very true. But that's as long as you have your ducks in a row, so to speak, and you have your facts in line. I mean, as if somebody presents to me a solid logical argument and I still disagree with it on principle or just religious ideology or whatever have you, there's a disagreement there, but it's still a feasible, reasonable argument from their perspective. I have to acquiesce and say, hey, that makes sense. Unfortunately, we're going to have to agree to disagree here, but I appreciate you sharing with me, why you're Jewish or something like that. You know what I mean?
well, I mean, the issue with modern discourse is that operatively we're all speaking different languages, even though we're all speaking English.
Well said, yeah.
It's a colloquial dialects of English basically have us speaking other languages because everybody has their own definitions as to what certain things mean. So a big reason why a lot of modern arguments among people who discuss politics, who discuss culture, who discuss anything is that operationally my definition for something that I'm holding true to is totally different than what the next person is. Stuff like identity, stuff, just general terminology is functionally different based on who you're talking to.
Right, like you. Oh wow, I did not write the gentleman's name, but the
Marcus did.
Marcus. Yeah, that conversation was so fantastic to me because, like you said, there's the common thought that trans is one ideology, one way of thinking, and it's not. I mean, even within the left, within the right, within the Catholic, the Jewish, the Muslim religion, you have factions in every single one of these where in the same room of 5 people, you can have 5 different viewpoints on the same passage or the same paragraph. So what is the solution to that? How do we get everybody to understand what we mean? At what point can we communicate ourselves clearly and coherently to the people that oppose our views?
I mean, I think a big step to having basic communication between people who inherently disagree with each other is, referring back to what I just said about having different definitions before you enter into a conversation, especially something with a hotline issue, you need to define your terms, right? So if when we go into this conversation, we're not on different planets. We can actually have an intelligible and intelligent conversation.
Proper discourse.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, Frank, hey, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great.
So this is a completely inappropriate podcast, and there's two of us usually. We just forget about half of us sometimes. How you doing, buddy? You got any questions for Miss Kim?
Miss Coulter, you mean?
No, we clarified this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, you were saying Miss Coulter.
Miss Kim Coulter. I know. I fumbled. Well, say something. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
How did you end up finding her online?
Oh, because what was it? So I was in my room being a bum, and then
no way.
Yeah, and then I saw on the YouTube's Temple there was an issue, right? That you ended up being in Temple. Was it? It was you were talking about your.
Oh, you had gotten let go from a job, didn't?
Wasn't
that what it was?
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, and then the whole thing.
Yeah, we did a lot of research.
Yeah, you guys are really informed. I'm actually very impressed.
Oh, really?
Well, we
tried. I thought we were being very vague with what we remembered. But yeah, so you ended up getting let go. You saw that video. What did you think?
I saw it about twice. Once because it was there, and the other one because we're gonna have her over.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't watch that one.
Oh,
that went too far back. I completely spaced on it.
That's okay.
I did.
And your thoughts were?
No, yeah, I find it fucking it's bullshit how you can't fucking express your own opinions, and then the other thing is that people tend to misconstrue freedom of speech with a call to action. So saying fucking what was it like kill Alex Jones, that's
what she said was Alex Jones deserves to be murdered in the streets, and
oh. I can understand that. I mean, I can't understand.
Just a general recap of the story so that people aren't totally confused because I'm relatively unknown.
Yes.
I was working at actually this place, this Willoughby's Coffee, and I'll give the reason for why I plugged them at the end, but okay. I was working as a barista, and this girl that I was working with, I was talking about Stop the Bias because I was starting to get involved in political journalism and political activism, and my family is actively involved as everybody knows, and a lot of my friends are journalists and investigative journalists, and I was very interested in getting involved in the field, and like I said, I brought up Stop the Bias, and Alex Jones is a big part of that because he's one of the big people who was purged in one of the first purgings of conservative voices or conservative representing voices. I shouldn't call Alex Jones a conservative, but then my coworker. Understandably, I do live in Connecticut, so people here are sensitive about Sandy Hook, and a lot of people don't really understand what Alex Jones actually said. By the way, InfoWars, Alex Jones did nothing wrong.
Hashtag free Alex Jones.
So they misconstrued the severity to which he said the stuff about Sandy Hook, and he kind of got, portrayed as a Sandy Hook guy. And basically she was like, well, he deserves to get murdered in the streets. And I was like, that makes me super uncomfortable. Like, don't say that. And then, blah, blah, blah. 2 days later, I get a text message from my boss saying, I don't think you're a good fit for this job. Good luck on your podcast. You're no longer working here. So I was fired over a text message, and when I replied asking further into it, I never got a reply. They messed with my tips. It was a nightmare.
Oh, wow.
But I held off on calling out Willoughby's. I held off on having a problem with the corporation because in my mind it was really just about the boss, right? It wasn't even the girl necessarily. We had pleasant interaction since, but it was the boss who heard about the situation and being like a very left person, very obviously very left person. It apparently like these conversations started happening without me being there between certain coworkers who were uncomfortable with the idea that I would work for a conservative publication or that I would not want Alex Jones to be murdered in the street. And actually, the story of retribution here is that within a week or so of this happening, the corporate owners came down and saw how poorly he had been managing the place, and he was fired. Everybody under him was fired, except for the girl who said the stuff about Alex Jones. And when I happened to come back in there for some reason, I actually was having car problems and I sucked it up because they have the best coffee in town. So I went back after almost a year of not being there and everybody was gone. And when I asked about the guy, they were like, oh, he was fired. He was totally incompetent. And it was just like very redeeming. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you got the coffee back. The best coffee.
Yeah, oh, it's so good. Oh, like honestly, fuck Starbucks. That shit tastes like burnt cat poop. Like
or
like,
water, one or the other. They never get it right.
Yeah, no, Willoughby's coffee. They're also known as New World Coffee. If you haven't tried them, you definitely should. They're the best coffee in the States.
Right. I do homebrew. I'm a fan of my French press over there. We're still trying to get sponsored by Black Rifle Coffee. I think
somebody.
What? Who, me?
No, we're trying to get sponsored by somebody.
Just sponsor us, people. That's all right. I think we need more than like 20 downloads a day or something. No. Well, what else can we talk about here? So I took a lot of notes.
Yeah.
What did you come with?
I came with my happy spirit.
You're so jealous. It's not Christmas anymore. Get over it. You need to get your diaper on for baby New Year. Your baby New Year's outfit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
top hat and monocle and a giant diaper.
Uh-huh.
We'll get some professional photos of that. Well, let's see. How do you? So I showed this to my wife last night. I decided, let's just get somebody's opinion that hasn't seen this article yet. Hey, hun, did you ever read Teen Vogue? She's like, yeah, when I was like 14, 15. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. What's the oldest you'd say a person would read that at? Oh, maybe 18, but really probably like 16. Like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Hey, come check this out real quick. And I throw on the screen this big old chart with this big old graphic saying, well, what was it? Like how to have I didn't even write it down. I should have put it down.
Anal 101 or something.
Yeah, Anal 101. Yeah, like, oh my God. I'm struggling with how to even bring it up because we're talking about this very young age group.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the legal age of consent in the United States doesn't dip below 16.
Nowhere. Yeah, of course. And this is very obviously a magazine that's towards any teen. And you're kidding if you don't think that there's an 11, 12-year-old girl out there or even a boy out there if that would see
very disturbing. It's very disturbing.
Logo. I'm almost a teenager, Mom. Can I get this? I was that little boy. Like if it said teen on it and I was 10, I was like, well, I have two numbers in my age, Mom. Is one is I'm a teenager. Yeah. You justify it. They're getting it younger and younger is my point. And they have this big old graphic with the dick and balls and everything going on. I just can't understand it. Telling them that if you need lube, make sure it doesn't clash with the condoms. And the thing is, the information is fantastic information. It is 100% accurate, great, fine. It lets you know about STDs. That I'm a little bothered that it kind of, there's a lot of it that bothers me. But my point is, it would be completely justified in a Maxim magazine, in a Vogue magazine, an adult Vogue magazine. Not even. I mean, well, you're right.
At
Least 17, right? But even that's pushing the because, like I said, there are younger girls these aren't regulated like porno mags. Like you can be a 12-year-old and go get Teen Vogue. It doesn't make a difference to the cashier at the store.
You can be a 60-year-old and get Teen Vogue.
Yeah.
Would you?
You can be 8 and get Teen Vogue. It's not like it has an age restriction.
There's no age restriction at all, and they're putting this up. It's if I was watching NBC and all of a sudden this graphic comes up saying, "Hey, have you gotten your condoms today?" And they've got.
No, imagine for a second if you were watching Nickelodeon with your children, and all of a sudden an article popped up that was like, "How to have anal sex when you're a kid."
It's insane. My wife was like, "What the is that?" Like, this is Teen Vogue magazine. It's like, is that a spoof article? Did somebody make that up, like, making fun of it? Like, no, look. Showed
Not
her
from the Babylon Bee.
on top, directly from their website. It's insane.
Yeah. Well, the problem with it is that these sexual educators try to hide behind this supposedly altruistic nature that, oh, well, they need to learn about sex because if they don't have an educational way to obtain this knowledge, if they don't have an available way to obtain this knowledge, they're just going to start, putting it in each other's asses and causing all kinds of problems. And it's just like,
it's ignorant.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen until you suggest to them that they should start having anal sex. This is child.
And we're only doing that. You only see that now because of the culture that's being put out there right now in the LGBTQ community. It's so over the top as far as the overcorrecting they're trying to do, that if they saw that same article wasn't about anal sex, but it was about best positions for a heterosexual relationship, then that would be completely unethical, right? 'Cause how could we ever let our kids know how to properly have sex in a heterosexual relationship? But because it's the alternative style, that's okay. That we need to accept and be proud of that.
I mean, understanding sexual health when you're an adolescent is very important, but that doesn't mean that you should be introducing kids to different kinds of sexual activity.
Well, my problem isn't the information, isn't even giving it to the kids. If it were the parents that got this from a proper source or they got it from an adult magazine and decided they wanted to share it with their kids, that's a different story. That's a different argument for other people to have. But when it comes to something that is specifically targeted, it's like you said, you see it on, I said NBC, but that's completely wrong. It's more like what you said. If it was on Nickelodeon, targeted to the children directly, it is completely unethical.
Well, I've said this before and I'll say it again, like, Big Tobacco has gone through the ringer time and time again, no flavors, no colors, because it specifically targets children. But this piece of shit, feminist, Nazi bitch gets to post an article telling 13 and unders how to have anal sex, essentially grooming them for either when they reach adulthood or to normalize the behavior if somebody were to be a predator towards these individuals. It primes people into being prey, and people like her don't deserve the title of a journalist.
Well, I would say
a sex specialist. The fact that she's regarded as some kind of academic is a joke.
To be honest, it read a little bit like it was something she wrote while she was enjoying a couple extra glasses of wine that night and just got a little bit carried away with what she thought would be acceptable in this environment.
She pulled a page from Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton, who are known drunkards.
Well, it's America. I think it's a pretty high percentage of people nowadays.
Yeah, it's equality in modern day America means more women and men, or means that men and women equally suffer from alcoholism and binge drinking. Go America.
I love that. Yeah, I caught that on there too. I had wrote that down. I wanted to get your opinion on the alcohol, marijuana, psychedelics, all this stuff. Like right now, you have all this DMT, psilocybin, Ketamine, I think, is also being researched all in these university studies. I'm a fan of it for medicinal use. For PTSD, I know a lot of guys that suffer from PTSD nowadays. So I see the benefits of it, but what are your thoughts as far as the way that it is manipulating the culture to, because it's not being stated as like this is a great thing for medicine. It's like the culture is saying, no, this is a great thing for us to get high in the future. That's not the point. To me, that doesn't seem to be the point of what they're doing at the universities. So what's
Well,
your
I mean, in a way it is. Like, these kinds of studies will attract people who just want an alternative way to be, an, what's it called, a functional addict.
Right, which I have been. If you go into our older episodes, I am a recovering addict. I've been through the ringer with several different substances. Nothing extreme. I've always been a functional addict, so nobody ever called me out, had an intervention. I called my own intervention with my own family at one point because I wasn't getting any help there. And then afterwards, I was forgot about it, and I just fell back into it and became a functional addict again, and came out of it a couple years ago again. And that's the way it goes. But I attribute my ability to stay sober recently for the last 2.5 years was I had gotten a hold of some psychedelic mushrooms. I took the hero's dose, which is about 6 grams.
Yep.
And I did it because I wanted to suffer. I wanted to see the devil, have a bad trip, and never want to fucking do a drug again. But I think it was because I had that intent of wanting to quit and using it as a tool that it worked. And because I hear these people that go out, they go shroom hunting, they do shrooms one weekend, and they're like, that was fun, let's go do it again. Because they're doing it with the intent to get high. So that's the difference between having these drugs administered by a doctor or not even a shaman. The shaman thing it's too hippy dippy, and I'm all for hippy dippy. I'm all peace, love, and I love that. But you can't use terminology like shaman or dope and flying high. Like geez, I'm from 1984 now. Sorry, but. My point is, I feel the terminology and the way it's addressed is the problem.
Well, I mean, the thing is that, like, addicts will use any excuse to get high. Yeah. So, there has to be a brief learning curve, and just general societal curve when it comes to introducing studies of psychedelics and even marijuana, which is technically has psychedelic properties.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, especially in the edible form. When you eat, when it's processed through the liver, it releases a completely different set of chemicals that gets you much higher, and it has a much higher psychedelic effect that can even bring. It's been very, very, very well researched that people that suffer from certain disorders like schizophrenia can actually be triggered. If it's a dormant case of schizophrenia, it could be easily triggered by a large getting high on weed or mushrooms, what have you.
Listen, my Aunt Ann talks about this all the time, and where I come to a head with her is she's absolutely right that getting overly intoxicated on weed will trigger mental illness symptoms, but what she gets wrong is that this happens in any mental illness when you introduce any intoxicant.
Well,
if it's not a matter of like, oh, like pot specifically is evil. I think it's very dangerous to go far in either direction of this argument, right? Whether it's no pot or all the pot. Like both of these arguments are just create fallacies in reality. And
we've tried prohibition before in multiple instances. It never works out. It just increases the illegal activity in the background.
Well, I mean, that's not necessarily a reason to legalize drugs, right? Like there's validity to having hard abusable substances be illegal. Which is why you see places
just to be clear, I'm not advocating for full legalization of all drugs. I think okay, I am, but only in the instance for medication, which it pretty much is anyway. There's levels of heroin available and meth and all these things available for doctors to use as medications. I'm excited for psilocybin and LSD, and again, only in those instances where it would help people recover from traumatic and only traumas, because I don't think drugs should be regulated like alcohol. Like, well, beer has this much percentage, so you can get it here, but you can't buy liquor at this store because it's got 40% alcohol, and that should be over there. And I don't think we should have like the cheap pot available over here and the good pot available over there, because it's all the same thing. It's all a psychoactive substance. Either you're gonna use it or you're not gonna use it. If you can't get the bottle, you go and buy 2 6-packs and get just as drunk.
Yeah.
So people are gonna get high regardless. The problem is the availability of it and whether or not we're going to allow and damn near facilitate the underworld to provide these substances for people. Like, so by making it legal in certain aspects, or at least by allowing us to produce it ourselves in-house rather than outsourcing to Colombia and Mexico and all these places, we do it here, and you cut out all the additives and the crap that ends up getting people even more addicted or more high or die. Like,
I mean, people on the government or the pharmaceutical or the FDA or any of those levels have equal likelihood of corruption or corruptibility as the dark market or the black market. Just thinking that like it's a very libertarian idea that if we just hand it over to these to government officials and to these FDA people or these chemical researchers, that they're going to have any better or any more altruistic intentions or purposes with them is kind of an asinine argument. The fact of the matter is, like, addicts exist and they will do whatever it takes to get high, and if you were to go in and drug test a room full of chemists, it's not very shocking that most of them are going to be high on drugs. The Federal Bureau of Investigations is known for selling their confiscated drug material back to chemical researchers who often end up using it to get high. And then, the FBI resells this into the black market to facilitate more busts. So, like, this isn't necessarily, like, uncommon knowledge, but...
what do we do about it then? I mean... I agree. I don't disagree with anything you just said, but what then can be done about it? If we can't, if it's fully illegal, it goes underground, and if it goes legal and we try and do it through federal sources, then it ends up illegal anyway. It's a lose-lose because we're still dealing with humanity, and humanity is just full of problems.
Well, we're going through it. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of talk recently that there needs to be more facilities that cater to adults who have mental disorders wherein they don't want to function in society. Often these people end up homeless and addicted to drugs because that kind of lifestyle to a mentally ill person is more feasible than functioning in the fast pace of modern society. And they believe that creating these facilities will make things better and will help get these people the help that they need. But humanity has an extremely short attention span. Like, we just not very recently, but within the last century, we have already gone through and seen what insane asylums look like, and now they're trying to re-implement the same kind of basic principle on a grand scale. California wants to invest $3 billion in a utopian megacity for the homeless. Like, that's actually going to do anything to make things better in California for them. It's not.
Even the mental facilities, when they were prevalent, they worked fantastic for a few years. and then funding starts to wane, or you can't get the proper help that they're supposed to be supplied with as far as...
I would debate that very strongly. I would say that they were largely unsuccessful
No,
in.
I'm sorry, that was my point. Was like that outwardly, what the public saw,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a highly functioning facility where they could send
The
families.
longer that went on, the longer we saw the underbelly of corruption,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
And even
exactly.
I've been in and out of treatment facilities as a young adult, and I'm here to tell you that most of the places that I went to were closed down by the government or completely rehauled so that they don't even resemble what they used to be, because if they did, they would be considered extremely illegal and extremely abusive. And the fact is that they're trying to implement that on a grander scale, and I don't necessarily have the power to combat that large scale of predatory behavior, but I would hope that other people listen to this kind of stuff and feel initiative to take on that responsibility as well, because I don't have the manpower to face it on my own.
Well, with things like that, it's all communal. We have to share the information, talk with each other about it. Even if we differ on any of these policies, at least we're willing to communicate it calmly, rationally, and with respect to each other to understand the differing points of views, and we could find a middle ground somewhere and understand each other. That's what the point of this podcast. That's why we chose Spider-Man's colors, red and blue, because who wants to choose a side? It doesn't make sense. You're choosing a side, you're blocking yourself off half the information. Now, whether that half of the information is right or wrong, that's for you to do your due diligence and find out. But you can't find out who's screwing you over if you don't have the information on how they could be possibly screwing you over. So thank you for that. This is a lot of fun. I'd like to Hey Frank,
Hi.
how you doing?
I'm listening. I'm like, oh yeah, very good point. Oh yeah, her too. Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, your inner monologue can come out. You can let us know how you feel.
It can.
You can shut me up too. I know I ramble quite a bit here, so forgive me if I do that.
That's the thing, that we're both talkative, and then if we're just ourselves, we're not gonna get anything done in a whole hour.
You believe he's talkative?
Yeah. So I'm like, you know what? Somebody's gotta fucking step up and step down, and let one guy ramble, because it's a podcast. Somebody has to be speaking all the time. I can't just be interrupting, cutting people off.
Okay. Quit telling me how I'm doing it wrong. Tell us what you think about what we've been talking about here.
Oh,
do you have any opinions on alcohol, marijuana, psychedelics? On the Oh man, I skipped a whole section here. It doesn't matter. This is fun.
Right.
Anything?
You can always circle back.
Yeah, we can circle back to anything. What do you want to talk about? Come on.
No, yeah, just the whole thing.
This is every podcast with him. I try and get him to just open up about anything. Come on.
Yeah, no. What happened? Yeah, the whole thing about government regulating drugs. You see it in San Francisco with the whole needles. The government decided it'd be a great idea to provide needles for those homeless addicted to the fucking thing, whatever it's called. And apparently it's fucking all over the place. So really, you can't trust government. But then what can you do with all these fucking? Now
I know you've been a fan of taking the power away from government, right?
Yeah.
You'd say less regulation to less agencies, right? Looking over. So what kind of difference would you make there with the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms? Completely get rid of it?
Yeah.
Who was it that said, Ted Nugent, I think, said, I never allow, we never go hunting and have, I don't allow smoking or drinking when we go hunting. I don't do alcohol, firearms, and tobacco together. I don't think they should be together either. Ted Nugent just cracks me up, man. What was I talking about? Yeah, anyway.
You're going to circle around.
I don't know. Did you have anything you wanted to address? Have I kind of put my foot in my mouth a little bit that you want to circle back and say, hey, you might want to reconsider this? We're all down for learning. So if you got...
I mean, I'm down to just spitball. It's been a good conversation so far.
Okay. Well, how do you okay, so what about those... I know we decided against certain questions, but what is your religious belief? I guess that's usually tied into politics quite a bit, and is that something you'd rather stick away from? We can cut this.
I don't mind talking about religion, and certainly those with conservative values tend to lean towards Catholicism or Christianity, which is fundamentally a big part of the history of this country and the founding of this country. But also, this country is based on religious freedom. I'm not really a strictly practicing religious person per se. I do plan to invest more of my time into religious principle now that I'm a little bit older and now that I'm thinking about family and community and my role in society. But by and large, I just think that if you follow some kind of spirituality or have some kind of God that isn't isolationist and doesn't tell you that you're better than everybody else or doesn't tell you that it's okay to lie to convert people into your religion, then if you're not going to hurt anybody and you're not going to hurt yourself, I'm a big believer in following whatever that means for you. So if like how in Alcoholics and Narcotics Anonymous, God is a representation of anything that keeps you sober. And I feel like that's the same in life too. Anything that keeps you on the right hand path, whether that be the Catholicism and Jesus Christ and and God, or whether that is Buddha, or whether that is just the idea of Zen, or even sometimes people worship family.
The good pull that gets you to want to do good things, right? I mean, what else?
Yeah.
As far as any religion I've looked into several. They all have the same message. It's the message isn't the problem. It's the people delivering the message in the ways they choose to deliver it.
Certainly not all religions have
not all religions, but yeah, the majority of them. The
ones that aren't made up.
Well, they're all made up, to be fair.
Yeah, but there's particular ones that you can literally trace back to like
1800 looking into a hat with a seer stone.
Yeah, I mean, we could specifically talk about Scientology. That's obviously made up. Or I should say obvious to me. A lot of people believe in it, but I just think that.
Did you say Scientology?
Yeah.
L. Ron Hubbard. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Dum.
All right. Well, we won't get bogged down too much in the religious. I am happy to hear you speak a little bit on it, though, just to let people know you don't come from one way or the other. Anyway, just to give people more of an idea, trying to touch on little aspects about you that are interesting. So you talk about how you don't think you're much of a public figure right now, but are you aspiring to be? Is that the end goal here? Are we all trying? Because we are too. We can say, yeah, we're just doing this for fun. We're not trying to make money. But I'll tell you what, in a year from now, if we got a few sponsors and we're going on the road, I wouldn't feel too bad about it.
Yeah, I would certainly love to have this more monetized. I don't know if I necessarily want to get to like Ann Coulter level, but I like the journey thus far, and I like the idea that I live in a country where I can carve my own career, and I can set it up so that I can primarily work from home and still do what I love, so that by the time I decide I want to be a mother, I can still be an active participant in my child's life, and I don't necessarily have to. That's really my primary goal, if I'm being completely honest. It's not necessarily notoriety or fame or going on tour and being, a household name. I want to be able to work comfortably from home and support and help contribute to supporting my family.
Just follow your passion.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to know. Like, if you would ever be interested in doing campus tours, because I'm like, if she is, maybe we can sponsor her.
Campus tours?
Yeah. Like, go from college to college.
God, that's so much work.
Yeah, maybe we can.
She just said she wants to work from home. She's like us. No.
Yeah, but
why would you want to go to campus?
Every now and again is different.
I
spoke for the Trump's. I spoke for the event before the Trump rally in
one, right?
PA.
That was cool. I did write down that was a joke. I wasn't calling him out or anything in that little note. Like, when you mentioned that you felt like it was a Republicans Anonymous meeting,
Yeah.
and like everybody shouted out, like, "Stick to the program, work the program."
Yeah.
Like, were they?
It was hilarious. You could tell a lot of people in the room had like been in a Narcotics or an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and it was like very, very tongue in cheek. And I only in retrospect do I wish I had added something along the lines of, and I've been 1,000 and some odd days free of liberalism.
Yeah, no, that it cracked me up. I just love the response you got. The earnest response from it was just so great.
Yeah.
But no, that speech was very eloquent, very well written. I just want to give you some kudos there. I think I even wrote it down there, kudos somewhere. But
Thank you.
what did you? So, do you really think Trump is the best president?
Yeah, absolutely. The best president of my lifetime.
Your life, you did say of your lifetime. Damn it.
Yeah.
Not of all time. Of all time, do you have a runner-up? Or somebody that tops him? Do you have any historical, I guess, have you put any attention to the more historical, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling questions out my ass for this one. I won't lie. I had nowhere to go with this one. Who's your favorite president other than Trump?
Well, I mean, the fact is that Trump has made a lot of landmark accomplishments as president as far as the betterment of our society, which was ultimately what he was talking about in his entire campaign, make America great again. And you have a bunch of people who are ignorantly spouting off, rehearsed rhetoric about, oh, America was never great. And it's like, actually, before the democratically implemented social programming policies and failed government programs, America was pretty fantastic. Even the African American family was at its strongest before people were, incentivized to marry the government, which just generally affected the general quality of family and of the family structure in this country.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, that I was gonna touch on that.
Yeah, I saw you.
When she started talking, I was like, oh yeah, in the 1950s, the black community was thriving, and then she touched on that, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll shut up now.
But so was racism. I mean, supposedly. But now the argument could be made that it's exactly the same as it was. It's just now we attack white people.
Yeah.
Like it's a
yeah.
No,
I mean, the
nobody ever
mentality.
treated you like
There's a
shit.
reason why the
You're
mainstream media tries to enforce the fact that you can't be racist towards white people, because you absolutely can be racist towards anybody. It's a matter of being prejudiced towards the skin color.
Yeah, I mean, how can you justify like, your parents never slapped you, so let me go slap you? Like it doesn't make sense. Like you've been the nicest person in the world, but you're not black. I just don't understand it. People are so angry with an entire race for something that happened 100 years ago.
I mean, what we talked about Tim Pool a little bit earlier, when people, even as fence sitting, I love you, Tim Pool, you're awesome. Don't take this as a criticism, but even when people such as Tim Pool are openly talking about racism towards white people and the replacement of white people in just society globally as well as nationally, that there's something there to acknowledge.
Yeah, I mean, it's incomprehensible how anybody could look at what's happening now and say that there isn't reverse racism. I hate the term reverse racism.
No,
it's just
reverse racism is made up. It's just racism.
Yeah.
Period.
Reverse racism implies that the only reason it's racist is because of some kind of moralistic fallacy. It's not reverse racism. It's just plain old, white fence post racism.
It's just racism. So what I liked about your interview with Marcus, right, was that it's the same story, the same exact argument. That's the whole point about this whole left-leaning media push is that all you hear is this one side of the story, as if it's just just factual. And
Yeah.
it's not opinion based, it's all fact. And when it's okay, I'm getting lost in my own thoughts here. I think I'm running too fast in my head. Frank, help me
Okay.
out.
It's why the left plays identity politics, because they can't actually rely on the integrity of their policy, so they basically create indoctrination camps or these little outrage mobs wherein basically because people are subject to groupthink, people divide themselves into these subcategories, introduce themselves and get indoctrinated into these groups, and then you're taught almost immediately that you can't oppose the basic tenets of these groups, such as the alphabet community and feminists and blah blah blah.
Right.
So when you do when you do get indoctrinated into these groups because you want to belong to an identity, you are taught to only believe that you are a leftist, and that is why
You must adhere to this ideology. You can't fluctuate. You can't have your own thoughts. It's no, you want to choose to do this one thing. Well, you have to choose all of it then. And
yeah. And things like I do appreciate the necessity of stuff like Blexit or walk away, but fundamentally that does sort of ultimately also play into the identity politics of it all. And like I said, I see the validity in having these movements, but to completely narrow your political spectrum to identify as like walk away or Blexit is also further perpetuating this identity politics. And the fact is, like, it shouldn't matter that I'm a woman. It shouldn't matter that I am in a heterosexual monogamous relationship with a man. It shouldn't matter that I was raised on the East Coast. None of these things should contribute.
all that used to be called private life.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be private. The
Yeah.
way you voted, all this stuff, unless you were out on the trails letting people know, you weren't supposed to be doxxed on who you were leaning towards voting for, or
Yeah.
who you were leaning towards having sex with. It's nobody's damn business.
It's gross. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It's no, that's there's more there as far as like the LGBTQ community. There are the flamboyant ones, just like they're in conservative rallies. There are people that are very outwardly aggressive towards opposing views. And just like in the LGBTQ community, there are people that are very anti-heterosexuals. I've known a couple. I've known, and you just like you have homosexuals that dress in garish outfits, and you have conservatives that come in, which is stereotype, right? But that's what we're talking about is the stereotypes. You get the redneck with the overalls and the hat and the missing teeth, or you get who else did I write down? I had like 3 points here. Damn it.
Nice. See, yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I remind people talking fucking politics, especially in these subjects. I remind people of the law of projection. When all you have inside is hate and bigotry, then all you're gonna see is hate and bigotry. If you're the one person calling out racism where there is none, especially, then I have bad news for you. You are the racist.
You most likely are.
Yeah.
Now I have not. Now I'm gonna get a little bit devil's advocate, a little combative with you here as far as your word choices.
Okay, that's fine. Can we just take a brief break? I'm gonna pause and restart this audio recording, and I'm gonna just run into the other room real quick.
That's great. No problem.
Okay.
That works for both of us.
Yep.
All right.